Welcome everyone. I am here to bring you another video about this incredible karmic drama unfolding in the United States and in our collective consciousness. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you a chart that I think you'll find very interesting. All right, so let me bring this up so on the share so that you can see what I'm looking at. All righty. Okay, so now this chart is for December 10th, 4:26 p.m. Washington, D.C. The reason why I wanted to show you this chart is because of the fact that this is the day that Saturn will make an opposition to Trump's Mercury, which I have been talking about multiple times in past videos. There's a T-square here with Saturn in his 6th house, Capricorn. Capricorn rules government, 6th house rules work. Saturn is all about splashing cold water. It's that bucket of cold water reality, like, okay, we got to bring you down to earth. So it's been making a T-square with his Donald Trump's Mercury in his 12th house, and squaring his Neptune. So on December 10th, that's when we will see it make an exact opposition to his Mercury. So the reason why this is important is because, as I've mentioned before, Neptune in his house of communication is all about the way he likes to spin a story, tell lies, fabrications, fictions, all of that. He loves to do that. And Mercury, which is the ruler of the 3rd house, is in the 12th house, and Neptune rules the 12th house. So there's a kind of mutual reception going on there that intensifies the energies. So his whole way of thinking, behaving, communicating is all about telling a story, and he tells a story that serves his purpose. Doesn't have anything to do with whether it's true or not. He doesn't really care. In fact, often if it's a lie, it works more in his favor. At least that's what he believes. But Saturn is trying to bring to bear the fact that that's not necessarily true. Telling lies does not necessarily work to your benefit. So that's the lesson that Saturn is trying to teach. And we also see some other interesting things happen. I pointed this out here where at the new moon, so around the 6th, 7th, well, the 6th because Mercury will go direct on the 6th, the 7th because there's a new moon, the 8th because that's when Mars will make an exact conjunction to Neptune, and then this Saturn opposition of Mercury on December 10th. So around that time, there's going to be a lot of information coming to the fore that's going to be extremely interesting. And I believe, well, since Mars is a masculine energy and since Donald Trump has Mars conjunct his ascendant, I believe that this is his attempt to continue to cloak the truth. But Saturn's going to make it extremely difficult for him. In fact, the interesting thing about Saturn opposite Mercury is it'll bring him to the point where he literally won't have he won't know what to say anymore. He'll just be, he'll be at a loss for words because his lying just won't work for him anymore. And even though he still wants to lie, that's what this is showing us, he still wants to lie, Saturn is going to make it impossible. He just won't know what to say anymore. So that's really interesting. And then over here on the same day, we see the moon conjunct the south node, and the south node has a similar energy to Saturn, so that kind of doubles that energy, and it is in a T-square. It's been the north node and the south node have been in a T-square for Uranus for quite a while, which is very karmic and brings shocks and surprises. So with the moon conjunct that makes that energy even more powerful. And then the last one I want to point out is down here. We have Venus, the vertex which rules fate, and Ceres. And I've been pointing out in the charts that I've been doing for quite a while now around Donald Trump that these Venus and Ceres keep coming up over and over and over again. And although I make sometimes slightly different interpretations, I keep wondering if Ceres is related to Russia because of the fact that the symbol for Ceres is a sickle. And the sickle has long been a symbol of Russia. And then Venus rules the scales of justice because Venus rules Libra. So, and those are the scales of justice. And then it's sandwiched between those two is the vertex, which rules fate. So that's very interesting here, especially because it's working in conjunction with this T-square. So now it's forming a grand cross here. And that's been impacting us for a while too. So the fact that Saturn will go opposite his Mercury and the moon will be conjunct the south node just intensifies this energy that's been going on for a while. So I think we'll see things come to a head around December 10th. Alrighty, so there, let's see what else I want to show you. Oh yeah, so this video is called the Trump-Cohen Fatal Attraction. So I want to show you another chart. Oh, by the way, let's look at Cohen here for a second. Oh boy, he does not look like he feels very good. He looks like a man who has aged 10 years in the course of 1 year. And that's what happens when you get into a codependent, fatal attraction type relationship with a narcissist. This is what you end up looking like. I have to say, I feel a little bit sorry for the guy, but that's what happens. So let me show you what the charts look like. Okay, so I'm going to bring you over to chart. Let's go back to the charts. Now this is the one that I was showing you before. So now what I want to do is I want to bring up the chart with Cohen. Okay, so now we see, okay, this is very interesting because notice I showed you before we had Venus and Ceres with the vertex between. Here in Cohen's chart, we see Venus, this is his natal chart, Venus conjunct the vertex and Mercury. So that's very interesting. But this is the main thing I want you to see here, is the way his Venus is conjunct Donald Trump's Pluto, because this indicates an obsessive codependent relationship. So this is the fatal attraction. So the thing I want you to understand is usually you're going to see this kind of dynamic between lovers, and because of that intense intimacy and passion that you see in a romantic relationship, particularly intimate sexual relationship. And I want to make very clear, I am not saying that about Trump and Cohen, not at all. This kind of fatal attraction can occur between two heterosexuals as well. It's just that you see it more often in romantic and intimate sexual relationships. You don't see it quite as often in heterosexual relationships, but here you do actually see this fatal attraction between Cohen and Donald Trump. So I want to make it very clear, I'm talking about a heterosexual relationship. I'm not saying that there was anything sexual between them. But this dynamic of the fatal attraction is still in play because Cohen was obsessed with Trump, and he fell into this codependent relationship with Trump. So in their narcissistic codependent relationship, Trump is the narcissist and Cohen was the codependent. So if you're not familiar with that kind of relationship dynamic, you might just do some quick research on narcissistic behavior or the narcissist codependent relationship and so that you can learn more about what those dynamics are. But it tends to include obsession. The codependent is obsessed with the narcissist. And so that's the kind of relationship we see between Cohen and Donald Trump. Cohen was obsessed with Donald Trump, and he was the codependent to Donald Trump's narcissist. All right, so, and it's interesting too that the vertex is right there, and it's opposite Donald Trump Ceres. So that's very interesting too, because now we're pulling in not only the fatal attraction, but also fate and the sickle. There we see the sickle again. So let me point out a few more of these alignments, and then I'm going to switch it so that Donald Trump's chart will be on the outside and Cohen's will be on the inside. So this is interesting. This is Donald Trump's. Donald Trump has a full moon eclipse in his birth chart because he was born on a full moon eclipse, conjunct Uranus. And this is making a T-square to Cohen's Pluto and Uranus. And a T-square with someone who has a full moon eclipse can also be very, very karmic. And then you see here, Cohen is Juno. So that's another example of that kind of codependent, abusive relationship that Cohen played the one who was abused in that relationship. He played the codependent in that relationship. And so you see it to another T-square here with Cohen's moon opposite Juno over Donald Trump's Mercury. And we know how Donald Trump likes to lie. And then it's making a T-square with Donald Trump's Neptune. So Cohen was very much, we might say, a victim of Donald Trump's lies. And I'm not saying that that excuses Cohen from the choices that he made as an adult, but it is a sad thing to see because this does happen to people, whether they're good people or not. It's still a tragedy to see someone fall under that kind of spell and that kind of abusive relationship. And then in Cohen's chart, we also see Neptune conjunct the South Node, which indicates that that Cohen had a predilection for self-delusion. So he was kind of like he was like a shooting fish in a barrel. He was just ready for someone like Trump to come along and take advantage of him. Of course, the tables may turn. Then that comes to the karmic readjustment. So Cohen has a Saturn retrograde. Saturn is about success in life, and it's the success that we work hard for. But what we see in Cohen's chart is that it's retrograde, which means that what is given will be taken away. So Saturn makes it, with retrograde, makes it harder. You have to work even harder for your success because you'll have success and then it'll be taken away. And so you have to work hard, like doubly hard for your success over time. But if he had gone the straight and narrow, he would have eventually ended up with a good life. And he had a good life even before he met Trump, but he wanted more. So that created this karmic readjustment. And what was given was taken away. And then over here, again, we see Ceres in conjunction. So this is the Ceres in Cohen's chart conjunct Donald Trump's sun. So there's the sickle showing up in important position again. And then over here we have Jupiter conjunct Venus. And generally this indicates a kind of indulgent relationship. And it's not negative in itself. It depends on the other alignments in the chart. So if you have a lot of favorable alignments, this kind of Jupiter conjunct Venus can be very positive. It adds even more positive energy to a favorable chart. But when you have alignments that are negatively aspected, then what you're going to see is that the indulgence that's created between Jupiter and Venus will just add fuel to that fire. So they had a lot of what we might call negative or difficult alignments between them. And so this indulgence just added fuel to that fire to make it even more intense. Okay, so I wanted to show you one more thing regarding the spiral dynamics map of consciousness. And so let me bring that up real quick. Alrighty, so I was showing you how there are some people in our nation that are still down here. That's where we were during the Civil War. But now we're up here. So our nation is here. It's like it can't quite make the leap fully into green, but most people in our country are green, because green, well, I don't mean to imply that there is an absolute connection, but I think that there is a reasonably safe connection to make between the green, which is concerned with human relationships, community, and ecology, and people who either vote Democrat or register as Democrat. So there tends to be a connection there between what they value at this green level of consciousness and the Democratic Party. So that's why, as a nation, most of us are here at the green level of consciousness, which is the top of Tier 1. These first 6 are called Tier 1, and then what's above that is called Tier 2. And there's this is the leap between any of these 6 levels of consciousness, the difference between, say, orange and green is much more significant when you shift from Tier 1 to Tier 2. So this is a much greater leap from green to yellow than from orange to green. So as a nation, we're still right here. It's like most people are in green, but we can't quite get all the rest of them up there yet. So the more people who can move into yellow, that actually pulls the level of consciousness up. But this is a much greater leap from green to yellow. And I'll put some information in the description box below if you want to learn more about spiral dynamics and this yellow integral level of consciousness, and how you can raise your consciousness if you want to get up to yellow. Alrighty, so let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and bring you back over here and show you. I want to show you, well, first of all, this, because I'm going to put this also, I'll paste it into the description box below so that you can see the connections in Trump and Cohen's chart that point to this fatal attraction. So there was Trump's Neptune square Mercury overlaying Cohen's Moon Juno opposition. So that made Cohen susceptible to Trump's lies. Trump was able to manipulate Cohen with his lies as part of their codependent relationship. So I'll bring you back to that chart and show you what it looks like when I switch the positions and put Michael Cohen's chart on the inside and Donald Trump's chart on the outside. Okay. So here we see that again. This is Cohen's Moon opposite Juno, and it is when it's connected to the Mercury, and it's also making the T-square with Neptune. And since I've talked about that so many times about how Donald Trump's Neptune square Mercury is what makes him such a pathological liar, and because Cohen with this, he was caught in this T-square. So he was caught, and he was susceptible to Donald Trump's lies and manipulation because of that. And then down here again, you can see this is Donald Trump's Saras opposite this fatal attraction here, and it's opposite the vertex. So Donald Trump's Saras is opposite the vertex, which is fate, in Cohen's chart, and which is conjoining his Venus. And this Venus-Pluto connection is the fatal attraction between them, which worked initially in Donald Trump's favor because Donald Trump was the narcissist and Cohen was the codependent in that relationship. But the tables may be turned because of these two karmic readjustments here that we see in the chart. Okay, so now we go back to Cohen's Saturn retrograde, which says what is given will be taken away. And then we go over here and see how Trump's Sun North Node Uranus conjunction is conjunct the Saras in Cohen's chart. So that's really interesting. There's this opposition. The full moon eclipse in Donald Trump's chart lands right on top of Michael Cohen's Ceres and makes a square to Cohen's Pluto conjunct Uranus. So that's another karmic alignment that we see there. You can see this. See that square there. Okay. So then we come around here, and I showed you this Jupiter-Venus conjunction, which is all about indulgence, which can work favorably in a positive chart, but adds fuel to the fire in a difficult chart. And we can see how difficult the chart actually turns out to be between Cohen and Trump. Okay, there you go. That's a fatal attraction. That's fate. Here is Donald Trump's ascendant conjunct his Mars, making a quincunx to Cohen's Saturn. And a quincunx is all about the karmic readjustment. So what was given has been taken away, and there will be a karmic readjustment. This Jupiter-Venus conjunction, which is indulgence, it can be really wonderful in a good chart, but not so good in this chart here. It made a trine, and so this indulgent was creating tremendous wealth, moving in Cohen's direction and also in Trump's direction. But now we have this karmic readjustment because what was given will be taken away. Okay, and then let's see, the other one is here, the quincunx between all of this going on here and Cohen's Neptune conjunct the South Node, which is his propensity for self-delusion. And so he fell under Donald Trump's spell. But because it's a karmic readjustment and because the charts between them are so karmic, it's going to come back to bite Trump. All right, so that's it. I think I showed you everything I wanted to show you. So I would say from this point that we want to be looking at early December, leading up to December 10th, when we're going to see some of these things really coming to the fore. All right, so that's it for today. I'll put that information in the description box below. And as always, I hope that you will subscribe to my channel and like this video and share your comments below. Tell me what you think about this fatal attraction between Trump and Cohen. And if you're interested in a personal reading, that you can click on my website. I'll put the link in the description box below, or you can email me, which is in the About page. Okay, so that's it for today, and I will talk to you soon.